So I don't see that impacting that sort of traffic impacting at all.
Yeah, it's off to the side.
I'm sorry, so you can't get, if you walk in the big main arch.
You can go into the right to the visitor center,
Right.
but it's just a regular historic door.
Right.
Like any other door in
And,
space.
you know, like that in a wall, so it's actually a separate environment.
And
actually,
So if that's answering the question, I don't know if that.
But
Actually, it's because it doesn't impact the
It
traffic
doesn't.
flow, because
No,
it's a separate space.
it's not
that
people
you
walking
walk
through
into
the-
the
But you also
business
can get
center.
And it's also going to have
outside.
its vibrant own space door, the visitor center, where like so when you're walking up to the space, you know you'll see that the visitor center has its own access. You can access it from the inside, but
from the outside.
But from the outside.
How big is the visitor center?
This is what it's like.
I'm gonna say it's,
Size of the column.
I might have it in here.
This room.
Under 1,000.
Yeah, I would say just under 1,000.
And
Maybe 1,000. Might be slightly.
I think it's around 1,000.
It's right around 1,000, I would say. So maybe a
And that's
little
the
more.
visitor center
Yes.
slash exhibition space, it's all the same.
No, well, yes, no, the exhibition goes out into the corridor. So.
Yeah, and then,
Yeah,
the gallery exhibition part of it is out in the corridor as you walk.
And that would be another, 900 square.
And just one thing, just, and again, you can get to the visitor center from off of the main hall, but also from the exterior. So there's two, very good means of access.
Can you lock that, will that ever be closed? Can you lock that separate from it? I'm just, is there gonna be like a time when things, because I'm frankly concerned we're 2 months out, you've got very explicit plans about all the restaurant areas, and it seems like the public amenities, the exhibition space, and the visitor center are frankly an afterthought, they're not designed, we're not quite sure who's going to be curating.
Well, that's what we were waiting on, who would do it. We put a lot of thought into ourselves, and we know what we want.
Right.
But depending on who's actually curating that space.
So that's why I was just wondering if there's a time when actually that could just be locked up and it becomes a restaurant. And, especially since it's a separate room, are there doors that will be closed off?
In an ideal world, they will have the budget or with us in some relationship to buy it, or envisaging for there is a wall of iPads and where people can pretty much find everything out about the Lower Manhattan historic sites, the bike and rolls, all sorts of stuff. And it's just like getting various apps on these iPads and using the technologies that are out there to inform them pretty much about anything they want to be informed about, including if you want to go to, whether it's a show
But when you
later tonight
say
or whatever.
they will have the budget, they is.
Well, we just had,
You.
we've
Well,
never.
no, we're going to select a partner on this.
Yeah.
That's a credible partner.
Yeah.
So
He's more involved in that than I am.
we haven't.
Is there a requirement to have that open when you open the building, or could that possibly be months later? Is that
It's a requirement to
it's a
have,
requirement.
but it will be up and running when everything else is up.
That is in the
It is a
terms of
requirement.
their lease, that is part of the program that they're committing to.
But we're building out this space, I mean, along with the rest of the space. It's, the people that we are picking are gonna have to, in some ways, conform to what we're building out, and in some ways they'll be able to put, so it's not gonna be a long, drawn-out construction.
And so you've got, I mean, you're handing it over June 1st, when is what you said, more
It'll-
or less. but
It'll
then-
be sometime around in June, depending on how long the punch list items take.
And that's just handing it over, so we're looking at an opening date of
Right, so then
3 months
they have
later,
their
4
work.
months later, and I'm sure you've got a requirement.
Well, actually, we should ask them.
Which that time?
What is the time?
We're shooting for Memorial Day. Next year.
Okay.
How long's the lease?
Probably, maybe May.
How long's the lease?
April, but it'd be nice to have a Memorial Day party, we might be open a bit early. How long is the lease?
Yeah, how long are you for?
Well, how long?
25 years.
25 years.
With options.
With options?
No.
No options.
No, the second part of my question wasn't yet addressed.
No problem. The boats, good point.
Because you're operating those.
We're operating the boats?
No. Maybe Gwen can clarify that as well. I know that Gwen had said that Battery Park City.
We are, yes,
would be
we're working on selecting the operating person that will make this a useful waterfront environment, which everyone wants, but, we'll Drew can comment on it.
Yeah, no, I mean, I appreciate it, and, you know, we're here to answer those questions, and I know it's a great concern to the community because it's sort of been an unexplained part of the project so far. So, I mean, the first thing you have to realize, it is a pier. It is under the jurisdiction as a waterfront property with the New York State DEC. So a water-dependent uses of the pier is an important part of DEC allowing a restaurant use and a public use like this to be part of the building. So we absolutely have to do the water-dependent uses. The question is exactly what that is. And we are working really hard on the business plan to make that right. So I understand the party votes. I understand about this is the boundary between the tourism area versus the residential section of Battery Park. And if you know Peter, you know this is going to be a Class A facility. So, I mean, the simple answer is it's not yet been determined exactly what it is. But, that being said, we will have a Class A, you know, operation. We will select a, you know, an operator that will meet strict criteria, including emission standards and everything that the community is concerned about. The question is exactly what operations it is. I mean, yes, do we see some sort of dinner cruise? Yes. Do we see some sort of tourism component to it? Yes. I can't speak exactly to what the schedule is, but there will be all parts of that, because that's what Battery Park is. I mean, those elements are literally 50 feet down to the Statue of Liberty right now. I mean, so it's a question of walking that fine line into exactly what we're going to do at Pier A. And it's a business plan that we're working on that we will present once we finalize, but it's not yet been determined exactly what we're doing.
I hear you loud and clear. I'm also going to say that it's more than 50 feet further down to the next pier. Your pier is part and parcel across the street from the school. More relatively closer to the school and the residential buildings than it is to the ferry over to Governor's Island, than it is to where they're not going out of at the moment to the Statue of Liberty.
Yeah.
They will, I know, reopen that. But that being said, so the concerns for your pier are so much more impactful to a residential community I can't even begin to imagine.
I would love to
I
hear the
come from a
concerns.
catering background, so I know if you're gonna put 300 tourists on a, okay, it's 50 people a bus. You're talking 6 buses idling along Battery Place in front of residents and schools. So there's a huge component that needs to be considered when you're looking at stuff like that. We've had a very long meeting, and we got the front of it. And it's so much more of a concern because you're so much closer to something that's purely residential versus any other location with zero infrastructure to assist you. There's no driveway for you guys, there's no parking lot by you, and there's no bus lane necessarily that you can long-term idle. And to tell me, well, you know what, it won't be that bad. We already, you know, it is an impactful thing. There's already catering event space within, what, 100 feet of you at the Jewish Museum and the Ritz. So it adds to it. 3,500 square feet in a restaurant, that's not so bad. But a 300-person party boat, when you're talking about 15 minutes to 45 minutes to unload a bus, load a bus.
Sure.
Per boat, and then another one, and then another one. It starts to become something that the community who say, yeah, we absolutely support. We want water use there. There's no one around here who doesn't love the marina. There's no one around here who doesn't love all of those kinds of things. Maybe some people. But we just want to make sure that the considerations are really well thought through.
In addition to the hundreds of buses that are already going to the Statue of Liberty.
Right,
we're
look,
getting that.
I appreciate it all, because I mean, look, we're trying to run a business inside with, you know.
I think we're sharing similar concerns.
Yeah, we share
We're not in the
the
party boat
exact same
business,
thing.
so.
Because also, this is a narrow, the pier itself, when you add in the table areas, we're talking about very limited spaces. And I know, Tammy, in the previous meeting, we talked about queuing, and Gwen said there would be a very sophisticated
It's not an easy pier to dock up to here.
Yeah,
so
but it's relatively narrow.
Of course, and
Actually,
We were actually surprised, we didn't learn about the water uses until the June meeting of last year. It's water uses, so this is, we're still.
well, it's a New York State requirement.
Right.
But
So-
you know, it's a catch-22, because we know the pier is not easy to dock on, that inherently makes it safer for larger boats, which inherently makes that worse for emissions, worse for, you know, standards, worse for the community. So there's a catch-22 in there. While we understand what the tides are like and it's much safer for larger boats, it's not exactly what the community is probably prepared for.
I assume that one of your biggest concerns, it's a mutual concern that's gonna help us here, is you don't want a nasty weather conditions when people are trying to sit and have a nice.
Of course not.
You're looking at.
And we don't want these crazy lines.
Yeah, I mean, our biggest issue is, you know, this is not.
You're looking at vendors, and you're looking at their track record, there's not gonna be some new business, maybe something
No way.
that's already along the river somewhere.
Well, in the permit
This will be
application,
specified down to the boats that they use, the equipment that they're using.
but in the permit
purpose that
application
it's
that you
for.
filed with the state, it said specifically New York Water Taxi and Circle Line downtown, which we know. But today I got an email from Water Taxi because I use it, and it's like casino night, you know, on the boats, ladies' night, martinis, massages, oh my, you know. I mean, so that's an established vendor. It sounds like it's a, you know, Las Vegas night, National Lampoon Vegas vacation night. So these are. So, and also, they're currently operating out of Pier 17, which is not going to be functioning, I think, as for boats next year. So where is the next obvious place?
Well, water
for
taxi's
downtown?
already coming into,
I mean, water taxi
into that
is-
area
I-
over there. They're off of Pier A kind of, they're on that little.
Maybe it's not
L
50
shape.
feet, but it's pretty close, okay? So we can go out and measure it, but I mean, you can throw a tennis ball at it. I mean,
Yeah,
it's that
it
close.
does,
It's
yeah.
right
Later
there, the
in
water
the
taxi
further
is there. New York
Yeah.
Water Taxi does operate it. I mean, I know Helena Durst. The Durst family is one of the premier real estate families in New York. I don't know exactly about casino night and lady night, but I want you to be, I want to be clear here. I mean, this is our operation, okay? This is not New York Water Taxi's operation. We dictate to them what they can and cannot do. So those type of things will not be allowed.
And this is one of the reasons why we're really taking our time with this, because, you know, we're accepting business plans from these people that we are gonna scrutinize.
There is another element to that as well, just to sort of help satisfy. We pictured, we haven't gone too far in this, but if there were a dinner boat leaving that dock, we're picturing that these people have already participated in the pier. They'd be part of, they're not arriving off the bus and just going to a boat and going back on the bus. This is something that would be.
Yeah,
And also, I mean,
we're not in the dinner boat business, so we're probably, I mean, we're not gonna allow some other group to just come in and go there, line up, go on for a party boat off of Pier A, and then come back and unload all around us. That
So,
will
I mean,
happen.
also, I mean,
Yeah,
just to
that's-
alleviate
that's
some of
not
your concerns
happening,
about the
right?
casino.
We're not about to get into
Right.
the party boat business.
I mean, you can read our DEC application. I mean, it does not allow for those things.
Well, actually, I did read it, and it does say specifically the same. It doesn't go into details,
does not
but it says
say that.
dinner cruises, but it specifically says.
Well, that's,
is that for
a
reason?
dinner cruise is a
Yeah.
lot different than a casino boat.
And I'm sorry, you're one of the pool.
If they have a dinner in our place.
You're Dermot, okay.
Dermot. I'm very interested in all these concerns that you have, because we have our own concerns in picking, you know, the use. So,
I think our concerns are very similar
Yeah.
to yours, and they really fall into two broad categories. Oh, I'm
I
sorry.
just wonder about the,
Yes, ma'am.
what would happen to the pier if an understanding comes? What kind of protections do you have?
Well, we have always sort of designed the downstairs